Alright guys, so after unlocking the Koenigsegg Jesko Absolut, which is already one of the fastest cars of Asphalt Legends Unite, today I will be making a list of the top 10 fastest cars you can find on this game, all of them belonging to S-Class, of course, as it's, quite expected, but with the help of an alien which I had already brought to the channel back when, I needed some top-notch labs to check how different the nerfed Devel was. And of course I'm talking about AN, whose channel you can find on this video description and which I encourage you to have a look at. But now let's dive into today's list. At the top 10 we have the Toridion 1 MW, a supercar made in Finland by Toridion, a brand that filed for bankruptcy in 2022, being that the main reason of why this car hasn't come back since it was introduced into the game like 2 years ago. As a result of this particular issue, having an unlocked Toridion or even more, a golden one, is something extremely rare within this game, mostly because the Toridion special event appeared quite close to the Hennessy Venom F5 one, so many of the people that chose to go for the Hennessy Venom F5 didn't max their Toridion on its special event, which would end up being the last one this car would ever have. This car, despite of not having a super top tier acceleration, was extremely good thanks to its top speed of 485 km per hour, as well as a decent nitro efficiency and a handling that was quite nice, making it like a Koenigsegg Agera but with better handling and nitro. I personally love this car for how nice it feels to drive, and it's a bit sad that it ended the way it did, but on a side note, having it feels like having an extremely rare car as well though. Okay, so right on top of the Toridion 1 MW we have the recently released Thembo Aurora Tour, which at 492 km per hour is a nice car, but more than because of its top speed, I will say it's a good car because of its floaty capabilities, because the Aurora Tour was the first Asphalt Legends car to have two separate special events, as I already covered back at the time when it was released, which made it a somewhat tricky car to gold. This car feels extremely good to drift with and can keep the top speed really well while drifting, which combined with its overall agility, a not so bad acceleration and a just sufficient nitro duration, makes this Thembo Aurora Tour a quite fun car to drive. The problem, as you could see on this run, is that on classic multiplayer trying to drive a not acceleration based car is an absolute nightmare, so a second position is all what we can sometimes aim for. Then we have no more and no less than my Koenigsegg CC850, with a quite tricky to reach top speed of 501 km per hour, which is certainly hard to maintain because of this car's somewhat weak nitro efficiency. The CC850 was released at the famous Drive Syndicate 7 when many people who used to cheat to get golden cars got banned a month after the event ended, so seeing a golden CC850 these days is almost certain proof that it's legal. I got my CC850 from a Gameloft giveaway and I started it out with the help of some packs, but I can tell you guys it's an extremely nice car to drive after the improvement it got around a year ago or so, because it's super floaty and a really nice car to drive. The nitro efficiency is quite tricky, not gonna lie, but it's a matter of getting used to it more than anything else, I have to admit. Right at the top 7 we have the Coinc Agera RS, which with a top speed of 510 km per hour became one of the fastest cars of the entire game back when it was introduced along the Clash store as the first car being exclusive from that store. Luckily for basically everyone interested in going for it, the Agera RS appeared during the coding special event, from where many people got the chance to gold it, me included. The Agera RS is not a bad car, but the drifting radius is quite bad and the handling is not the best either, so it's a mix of emotions in my case. It looks absolutely stunning, so that's definitely a positive point, but performance-wise is not as good as other cars within today's list. Luckily, one of the good points this car has, aside from obviously its top speed, is the nitro efficiency, which is quite nice for a car this fast. In a nutshell, it's not my favorite, but on the right hands it can pack a punch. Now we are bringing the real stuff, because the 6th faster car of Asphalt Legends Unite is the SCC Tatara. This car, which faked the results of its top speed in real life, has a 517 km per hour in-game top speed, even though in Asphalt Legends Unite is a bit disappointing as well, being completely honest here. It has a nice acceleration, a quite good nitro efficiency, but a really bad drift radius, so wide that it basically counters all the good points this car has. It's quite floaty though, meaning that you can do 360 floaty drift with it, but in normal drifting it just loses an absolutely insane amount of speed, so big that if you don't know how to get the points so this car doesn't lose as much top speed, on twisty corners you are completely done. It's one of the cars I have been the longest without using, and every time I try it, unless it's on Himalayas or Scotland, I realize why I don't use it anymore. The Koenigsegg Jesko, one of the most iconic cars of our time, it's a quite special car on Asphalt Legends Unite as well, because despite it's a bit tricky to properly dominate, this car absolutely insane 522 km/h top speed you can reach with nitro makes it one of the most feared rivals you could find, if the driver is skilled enough, of course. This car was introduced through an extremely expensive Drive Syndicate, then it appeared on a Grand Prix, and since then it has appeared in multiple times until the Clash store arrived, where you can get its key collecting 31,000 Clash tokens, which is a currency you can't obtain spending real money, only playing the Clash with your club. The Absolute has an insane drift radius, handling at top speed, but still it requires a special touch to get properly tamed, and you only get to understand what I have just said when you get a chance to drive this Koenigsegg Jesko. From the Koenigsegg Jesko upwards, literally most of the cars left are just iconic, like the fourth fastest car of the game, the Bugatti Bolide. A car that literally has almost the same top speed as the Koenigsegg Jesko, but with a catch. This Bugatti Bolide has one of the worst nitro durations of the entire game. At 27.5 points, is basically below the half of the Jesko's nitro efficiency, and that's a clear weakness, hence why the Bolide is not as common as the Jesko. Well, that and the fact that the Bolide has only been released through Drive Syndicate events, which are basically the most expensive ones of the entire game. Still, the Bolide has a great acceleration and handling that makes it somewhat competitive despite of the nitro handicap. In the top 3 of the game, we have the cars that has remained for the longest as the king of the game, the Hennessy Venom F5, with a top speed of almost 540 km/h with nitro. This car was and still is an absolute monster, which is the actual reason of why most of the top-notch players keep using it. The Hennessy Venom literally embraced the definition of floaty, being the car capable of doing some of the fastest corners on this game as for now. The drift radius is really nice and sharp, and its nitro efficiency, despite it was nerfed once that Asphalt Legends Unite was globally released, is still quite solid for a car this fast. The Venom F5 has never been a super easy car to obtain though, but if you could unlock it with tokens at its special event 2 years ago, you probably did the best investment ever on this game. I'm not the most skilled driver, and the F5 still remains as one of my favorites of this game. As the second fastest car of the entire game, we have the Koenigsegg Jesko Absolut, the latest introduction to Asphalt Legends Unite, and probably one of the most controversial cars ever, mostly because of how expensive it is. Let's remember that it's being released right now through a Drive Syndicate, combined with the fact that as for now, it's quite bad, with a speed loss while drifting, far above what's usual, as well as not the best nitro efficiency. Sure, you can technically reach a top speed of over 550 km/h with this car while using nitro, but that's extremely rare considering how easily you can lose the speed. Doesn't matter if it's, just because of the obstacle you just destroyed on the track, or if it's because of the drifting that will easily send you back to the 280 km/h area. Also, it's not the most floaty car, but if you try to do a 360 floaty with this car, it will go really wide, which makes that even harder to execute. Okay, so at the top 1 we have what it used to be the most insane car ever introduced into any asphalt game ever, the Devel 16. Before being terribly nerfed down to the status you can see on this race, this Devel 16 was capable of taking corners at 550 km/h, which was basically its full top speed of 556 km/h. This car was incredibly OP with a fair nitro duration for the insane top speed it could reach, combined with an auto floaty that caused this car to float and gain speed while drifting. And a solid acceleration, it was the best car ever introduced. Unluckily, Gameloft realized of what they have done and massively nerfed this car performance, making it to lose speed like any other car while drifting, and making it to float like other cars, but with a worse drift radius, as you will see on the corners. The most savage nerf ever seen on Asphalt Legends up to this day applied to a car thousands of people paid hundreds of dollars just to lock, under the premise that it would last forever. Quite a pity, not gonna lie, but it is what it is, I guess. I really hope you all guys enjoyed this top 10 of the fastest cars of Asphalt Legends Unite. Let me know in comments which one was your favorite, drop your massive like, and make sure to subscribe in order to not to miss absolutely anything about Asphalt Legends Unite. I will see you really soon as usual with much more Asphalt content. Goodbye guys.